Hey, want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
Newsflash, asshole! I've been hearing it the entire goddamn time!
Good evening and welcome to the West of Waterford podcast. Little tribute to the mighty, wonderful Eddie Van Halen there. My name is Josh. And beside me on the couch, I have Brittany. Sorry, Brittany.
And I'm Brittany.
Brittany, do you remember
Welcome.
where you were the first time you heard that?
I was just gonna say no, not really, but that is a song because I feel like I only really discovered it only in the last couple of years on the radio. Whenever that's on the radio, I definitely turn up the dial. But I do think what's funny is that in your effort to make a tribute, which is very, very sweet, by scratching the record and starting Eruption.
Thank you.
You do realize that the opening says, "Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?"
I'm not mitigating that. That's the way we begin. And
I love that guitar solo.
It's
intro.
incredible.
We've absolutely incredible.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have lost a great today. I mean, I remember where I was when I first heard that. I was sitting on my friend Tom's house.
Sitting on your friend Tom?
No, sitting in his house on his couch, and we were listening to bootleg music because that was the thing to do. I think Napster was kind of on its last legs, actually. And
speaking of your friend Tom,
he was on his last knees. Yeah, he turned this on. I remember I was trying to I was trying to get with this girl named Louise. I later got with
was
a friend.
Was she also on the couch?
She was also on the couch along with her friend Neve, who I eventually actually ended up having a short relationship with. But I remember Tom turning that on and me thinking to myself, "Holy God, what is this? This is amazing."
He turned that on and you got turned on.
I got turned on, and everybody in the room got turned on, and it was a wonderful evening.
I mean, it's a horny song.
It was a horny time. We were all teenagers. I can't have been any more than 16.
The title of
16.
the song is Eruption. So
thank you for playing to the obviousness of it. But
oh yes, you're welcome.
This has been a very weird week for me.
How so?
It's all kind of catalyzed with the death of Eddie Van Halen. Now, what I want to say about Eddie Van Halen is love or hate Van Halen. And personally, I could take or leave Van Halen as a band. And I know that's going to be sacrilegious to a lot of people out there. But for me, I never got into the American party rock scene, man. I don't like Motley Crue, you know. Right. I mean, and all these bands, I think, kind of stemmed from Van Halen. I never liked David Lee Roth very much. I don't know much about Sammy Yeager. I didn't like the pretentiousness of like that song, "We're back and we're better than ever," or whatever it was. But
doesn't it kind of tiptoe into the 80s hair rock?
Little bit, yes.
Right? Like that's when I think of Van Halen, that's like hair rock, right?
I think they were a little. Something like Hot for Teacher.
Yeah.
I can get behind because that is just a badass rocking song.
It still has that 80s hair band.
It does, but it has something. It has something different.
Oh, it does.
It has the Van Halen brothers.
You're right. It definitely has something different.
The Van Halen brothers, I think, Alex and Eddie, of course, they really were what I think set Van Halen apart from a lot of other bands. The fact, as a drummer myself, Alex was consummate drummer in a lot of ways. He was showmanship. He was technically brilliant. He was able to lay down great grooves. And Eddie was just the first time I ever saw Eddie playing. I think the first time I saw or became aware of Van Halen was Jump.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, oh God, I hate David Lee Roth. I didn't know who he was. He was just this big-haired, blonde, boise bop singer. He was just big from. Now, looking at it, like, if I was to have a band, I would love to have a David Lee Roth like. But, like, of course, me growing up in bands like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, who will be mentioned again in a little bit later.
You've mentioned Judas Priest before.
I will, yeah.
You gave a little sneak preview of what you would like to discuss in the future of the
This is true.
podcast. And we are there. The future is now.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room because Brittany has the memory of one. And she's also a big white elephant at the moment. She's not elephant. She doesn't suffer from elephantitis.
Is it because my posture is
bad? No, it's
bad
because your memory is superb.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Very good. But where
and I'm
was
wearing
I?
a cream-colored shirt. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, white elephant, memory of an elephant, not even the size of a weasel. In case you've never seen my wife, she's kind of built like a weasel.
Scared of mice like an elephant. Loves peanuts like an elephant.
You do? No. You love peanuts, not peanuts. I think that's more likely.
I only love one peanut.
She also loves Swedish chocolate called anus. Anyway, oof, poor Robin Williams. Anyway, I remember though seeing Jump, and I remember like watching the video and thinking, "Oh, that's a badass guitarist." He had his crisscross guitar, his signature guitar, and then I see him playing the keyboards, and I'm like, "Wow, there's nothing this guy can't do." I mean, I was very interested.
Talented.
That's when I think I tried to get into Van Halen, but I couldn't. But Eddie always stood up as a very highly. And then when I found that, Eddie was allegedly the inventor of the tapping, which you heard there in Eruption.
Well, it's tapping and delay, right?
It's just tapping with a lot of reverb. And there's no delay.
There was no delay in that?
Speaking of delay...
It almost sounds like it a little bit.
I think I really liked Eddie. I began to respect Eddie when because I don't think he ever mentioned it, but somebody was tapping and had done a tapping technique a couple of years before Eddie had. And that was Brian May of Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And Brian... one of the first major mainstream rock songs. I could be wrong about this, but it was in 1977, I think. News of the World, It's Late, and Brian does a tapping technique. It's late, yeah, but not too late. Oh, but that was beautiful. No, it wasn't. It was terrible.
I was doing fine because I was doing something just very like very soft in the background, but you kind of went for it and you had a.
Well, I always go for it, dear. But the fact of the matter is, if Eddie was picking up things from somebody like Brian May, or if he came across it organically,
hopefully he wasn't picking up anything from Freddie Mercury, am I right?
Oof, Jesus Christ. Anyway, but Eddie was a guy who really could play a mean guitar. He was, again, as I say, whether you love Van Halen or hate them, take them, or leave them. Okay, Eddie Van Halen was an absolute rock god, a rock legend, and we salute you, sir. Rest in peace, and thoughts and loved prayers to your family, especially your son, who I know was actually out on tour with you for the last couple of years. I forget his name, but like Brittany, to Eddie Van Halen. We've lost another great one. We really have. And I think that's the linchpin of this week. is because I've recently been going back and listening to all my old heroes.
Yeah. That's true.
I've been listening to a lot of rock music, a lot of metal recently, and now I think Eddie's kind of passing has it's had an effect on me in the sense that it's not that I loved his band as an artist, as a band. It's that I respected him and what he brought to the world of music. And I think about all these other bands, and now I'm thinking, my God, I mean, a lot of these guys are going to go soon.
Couple of thoughts. So first thing you keep on bringing up, like love them or hate them. Here's the thing, I really don't understand. I mean, it's kind of an immature thing when you're young to like love or hate something.
I think it is.
To like to actually hate some piece of music or a band or a song. If you are a true lover of music, you can oftentimes respect a lot of musicians and a lot of different music, but just say, hey, no, it doesn't necessarily move my soul, but like I get it and I respect it. And that's, I mean, of course there's a lot of artists I respect, but do I choose to listen to them? Because music is subjective and it's an emotional experience. If it doesn't, that doesn't move me. That just doesn't move my soul. Like with a lot of music, it's like it doesn't mean I didn't never say, oh, that's awful or that's bad, because if
that's
it's
something
good,
you used to say to me a lot. Actually, it doesn't move my soul. Yeah. You can detect technically if it's a good produced, well made song. This is true.
But that doesn't always translate into you feeling it.
This is true. I mean, look at somebody like Dream Theater.
So you can't just say something like shit.
We'll say somebody like Dream Theater. Dream Theater are technically pinnacle of bands in a lot of ways.
Well, they're music for musicians.
Music for musicians, but I mean, I mean, how many albums have Dream Theater had? And I think maybe. Why
are you talking about Dream Theater? Because I've said that maybe.
No,
like
I'm just making a point to you. I mean, I think you're right. Dream Theater, apart from maybe 3 songs over 20 odd albums or whatever it is, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 songs actually kind of touch my soul.
Okay.
In a lot of ways.
Because it's they're very technical.
Technical, very long-winded, and after a while, I mean, I think the best Dream Theater album I've ever heard is Octavarium.
I think I brought that up. We were listening to them, I'm like, they're technically amazing, but sometimes like, that's when I said they're just music for musicians. They're like the musicians' music because it's so technical based that sometimes you just can't like enjoy it like other types of music that are a little bit more raw and a little bit unrefined.
I get it. Yeah.
And I mean, we have different we have
similar tastes in a lot of ways.
I mean, I maybe I'm gonna sound stupid. I feel like I have a more open mind than you. I feel like I'm a little more eclectic than you.
I think you have more of an open mind in the sense that you're willing to listen to something without ever hearing it, whereas I am somebody who will. I'm probably a little more. I guess you could say I could be a little more emotionally attached in the sense that like, ooh, that makes my.
But you're also very sentimental with music, so that's why you
I'm
have
very
a lot of attachments to music because of sentimental value. Because you grew up in a home where a lot of music was played. I didn't. Yeah. So a lot of mine was just exploring on my own, and
I grew up at everything, man.
Yeah,
I grew up.
I mean, that's why you put on some really like strange 70s musicians that I'm just like, okay, but I know it's like, I know you like it, and it's mostly produced by nostalgia.
No. I would say I would say anything that I listen to literally will get my kind of anything that I listen to and go back to is something that will really get my heart thumping or the arm hair here raising, and that's actually something I was noticing this week. And again, it's funny because obviously I've just after finishing Rob Halford's Stupendous, and I can just say I cannot.
Don't let somebody cut you off and say stupid.
Very good. No, I cannot talk this up enough. If you're a Judas Priest fan, if you are a heavy metal fan in any way, get out there and buy Rob Halford's autobiography.
Or if you just
Confess.
like memoirs.
Or if you like memoirs, get out there and buy Rob Halford's autobiography, Confess. It will...
Cuntfest?
Cuntfest.
I don't think he was into that.
And that only took us 16 minutes. Wow, there we are.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I said
You said a
Hey,
naughty
but-
word.
hey, okay.
You're a dirty girl.
Okay, for one half of this podcast, it's not a naughty word. And we're talking about
It's all right. It's rock and roll. I don't
it's
give a
water-
fuck what we do around here at the moment.
Waterford. Okay, west of Waterford. So we are too far west for that word to be acceptable. But for all you
that's
Waterford
too
people and
Go a couple of yards east down to the local there, and that word is perfectly acceptable.
yeah, probably because of you.
Probably because of me and maybe Johnny. But
Because
but yeah, the book, of course.
I've never heard Johnny use that word.
Oh, I've heard him use it once or twice.
Oh yes, we can talk about Johnny because the audience might know who he is if they've listened
Anyway,
back.
we're getting onto it. But yes, Rob Halford's autobiography. I mean,
Yeah, go on.
I mean, like.
Okay, can I start out?
Hang on. Would you just stop cutting across me? I've actually forgotten my original thought. If you'd like to remember my original thought for me about the book.
Your original thought was that it was stupendous.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like it's you're talking
Can't-
about nostalgia and like how I like music for me, and I mean, like, look, let's face it. There's a lot of new music I like. I'm not a heavy metal, hard rock kind of purist. I like a lot of synthwave. I mean, let's not forget when we were watching Hannah, that Ring Around the Roses by what's her name?
Ring a roses. Charlotte
Charlotte Gainsbourg. Yeah,
Gainsbourg.
and that came on. I was like, ooh, I like this.
It was at a gay strip club.
It was,
scene,
but I
too.
mean, yeah, but I liked the song.
The song was.
I love the atmosphere because the theatricality, I think, reminded me of something that Priest would do. So I've been listening ever since I read Rob Halford's book, and I'm going to get into that a little more later. But I started going back and listening to Priest, and I started to realize these songs really do make the hair on my arm stand up. They get me going. They really get me going. I love these songs. I love this band. And then I had to have kind of a hard conversation with myself and say, Josh, just admit it. Just come out of the closet and say it. You prefer Judas Priest over Iron Maiden, don't you? And I was quite literally...
Come out of the closet.
And I was quite... but no, because I grew up and
Halford, be my leather daddy,
like you were saying...
please. I welcome you.
No, like you were saying earlier, when you're young, there's love and hate with music. It's fanboyism.
Yeah, I hated that in
fanboyism,
that young,
yeah.
in that young thing. You just like be like, boo! Oh, how
Well-
could you? Or the whole like pretentious like, you've never heard of this.
And usually what they're talking about is not so fucking great. It's not good at all, really. For me, my fanboyism was Iron Maiden.
And you usually limit yourself very, very narrowly when you're
I
like
can.
in that
I
that
can.
weird.
I can.
No. I'm talking about like at that age, you usually
Right.
narrow in like.
No,
I went
yeah.
through like a phase where I thought the only music I listened to was punk.
Queen, Iron Maiden, Pink Floyd, and a little bit of Judas Priest, because
And
I didn't want to admit to my dad that I liked Judas Priest. They were my very, very
Really?
first concert.
Why?
They were my first concert. My dad...
Why didn't you want to admit to your dad that you?
well,
Judas Priest?
it was like this. Very, very simple. Angel of Retribution has come out in 2004, 2005. I was around 14, 15 at the time. And my dad, without my consent, I suppose you could say, bought tickets for me, my Aunt Rachel, who is a Judas Priest, like worshipper.
Yeah, but she's also Bon Jovi fan.
Bon Jovi. It's the weirdest thing ever because I can't stand Bon Jovi and my dad can't stand Bon Jovi. But my dad bought tickets for me, my mom, and himself, obviously, go to see Priest. And we were going to go with my Aunt Rachel, who's my godmother, and my Uncle Paul, and
God bless her.
and also who was coming along was my Uncle Adam, which is the reason I started drumming, and my Aunt Louise and my cousin David. I don't think you've ever met David. David would have been... You would have loved David when he was young. I don't know what... he's gone...
He was the cousin that
became
came home from Australia.
Yeah, he's...
Oh, is that him? Because I met him.
blonde?
I don't remember
Tall?
what he looked like, but I remembered he had been in Australia for some time and then he came back.
You might be talking about Peter Finnerty, actually. He's not a cousin. Are you talking about
Oh.
Decky's brother?
I don't
Peter?
know.
Anyway. But David was like...
You won't show
David-
me your extended family for some reason. You're embarrassed by me.
No, I'm not. But David's. You're talking about going to Australia. We're not getting into that.
Or
again.
Sligo.
I'll bring you to Sligo. I will bring you to Sligo. Sligo is God's country. You hear that, people in Sligo? Sligo is God's country, and anybody who wants to go to Ireland, you go to Sligo first.
Well, I know at this point that if I want to get something done, I have to do
Anyway.
it myself.
So I went to see Judas Priest at the tender age
Yes,
of
please do
15. I didn't want to tell my dad I liked them, but he tried to get me to listen to Angel of Retribution, which is the album they were covering at the time, and I went to see Judas Priest. The Scorpions, of all people, were opening for them. Still loving you. I remember distinctly
I
they
love
played
that song. I love that
Yeah,
song.
but I remember distinctly they played that song that night. The only song I knew by the Scorpions was "Here I Am, Rock You Like a Hurricane."
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
Or it was like "The Winds of Change" or whatever the hell that one is.
And we all know about the controversial album art cover with a little 12-year-old girl
I didn't know about that at the
Nude.
time. And the
with a
Germans,
slight just crack
The Germans are not known for their
It looks like a
political
crack.
correctness. Now, come on, get into my oven. Oof.
It's so bizarre.
It is bizarre. But the
Ugh.
Scorpions just opened for Priest, and they blew me away.
Yeah.
And my dad said to me, like, between the two, like the curtain going down for the Scorpions and coming up for Priest, and he was like, "Why do you think of them?" And I was like, "Priest are going to have a hard time topping that." Now, me and my little infantile brain, I'm like, Priest are going to have a hard time topping that. And I want to relate something a little later to that, because Priest came on. I was blown away by them. I was like, I didn't want to show it to my family because they all knew.
That you wanted to
every
wear-
single one. No, hold on. Every single one of them knew I was going to love this band. And I just was fighting it. I didn't want to admit it.
Daddy, I want leather and studs after this.
No, I bought a Judas Priest hoodie after the show. I got my dad to buy me one.
Hoodie.
But I mean, I remember that electric scream at the start of Painkiller, that from Halford, and just been like wide-eyed and like, oh my god.
Well, okay,
Yes?
obviously, having known you and being someone that's very open to
Mm-hmm.
experiencing new music, actually, there's been two guys in my life that have introduced me to different music that I probably wouldn't explore so much on my own,
Are you going to talk about Joe now?
yeah, and to the what?
I'm kidding. Joe's a great
He
guy.
was my jam partner, buddy.
He was the peanut butter to your jam.
So, and obviously, I have to give a huge thank you to Spotify, being able to stream music and
Yeah,
have an
this is true.
amazing, huge database, and have algorithms that put together playlists for you. Like I've discovered so much music that way.
Yeah.
But you've opened me to listening to bands I might have not ever really explored.
Yeah.
That being Judas Priest. I remember you showing me Judas Priest for the first time, and what was one of the first?
Oh,
the first
Dream
adjective,
Deceiver, I think.
The first adjective I used to describe Judas Priest was theatrical,
Theatrical, yeah.
and very almost like very technically, almost classically trained vocals from Rob, like in a way.
Yeah.
Because I find some metal vocals kind of cheesy, and it kind of grates me. Like
Van Halen.
Yes, and
I mean, let's not.
And, like,
David Lee
I'm
Roth
a-
is a great singer,
and
but
when
he's
you
a bit
talk about-
theatrical
when you talk
and
ab-
cheesy. Yeah.
And when you talk about Iron Maiden, my preferred singer is the original singer, Paul
Di'Anno, yeah.
Di'Anno.
And actually, to be honest with you, I will admit that I prefer Paul over Bruce at this
Yeah.
point too. I'm beginning to see what Shelley and O'Sheen were talking about in Cork. Do you remember Shelley and O'Sheen?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
of course, yeah.
Well, I mean, we only spent one evening with him, but yeah.
Yeah, but we were listening to great music, and that's
Well, I mean,
the
I
thing.
I knew Shelley more
Well,
than
yeah.
just that one evening, but
He
yeah.
was a great dude.
I remember
Shelley,
when
if you're listening to this, I still love you.
I remember when we were jamming.
still loving you.
I
Anyway,
remember
go
when
on.
we were jamming, and O'Sheen just did a little like blues like rhythm, and then I just kind of improv some vocals, and he's like, I just think we just wrote a song. What
Yeah.
the hell?
No, O'Sheen was Shelley is the most talented, apart from Shelley is the most like pure talented guitarist I've ever played with,
And can play very, very drunk.
unbelievably so. Whereas the most creative guitarist I've ever played with was Dave Rossiter. So Dave, there's your plug. Dave.
Butt plug?
Dave was quite literally.
Butt plug.
What?
Butt plug?
Butt plugs. Butt plugs.
Butt plug.
Butt plugs.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. But yeah, no, Dave was the most creative guitar I ever played with, but Shelley was just technical
wizard, yeah.
Wizard. He could play. I've never seen a guy play a harmony on a single guitar before, and he was doing it. Do you remember when we used to play the Motorhead song? What was the song? Smile, Shine, and he would play the harmony. His hand looked like a freaking lobster going up and down that fretboard, but he was playing a harmony on a single guitar. He was incredible. He really was a technical genius. Yes, Brittany.
No, I just think you're starting to make our audience feel like that third wheel at a get together going.
This is true. Good point.
Yeah.
This
But
is true.
anyway, yeah.
But actually,
But anyway-
your adjective about Judas Priest, by the way, funny because my dad had an adjective, and I think maybe you'll agree with this about Priest. Intense. You say theatrical, but I would say intense. Priest have an intensity about him that Iron Maiden.
Well, I'm somebody that grew up. Maybe I use that word because I grew up with theater.
Maybe, yeah. But so did
musical
Halford.
theater.
So did Halford.
I grew up. That was my first musical indulging in music was musical theater.
Mm-hmm. So the quick thing was that we saw Iron Maiden live here in Phoenix, and you got to say you want to talk about
that was such
theatrical.
weird fate that we ended up because.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm normally good about when we go to concerts, it's because I know about them and I get the tickets.
This is true.
And then, we do know that Judas Priest has had their concert postponed a year, so they will be coming back October 9th, 2021.
Get your tickets if you're in Phoenix.
Yeah, which is strange because you were so shy. And you didn't pull the trigger when they were here a couple years ago.
The big thing was, for me, it was a little hard.
And I was leaving that up to you.
The thing was, for me, about that time, it was a little hard. I've seen Judas Priest live twice, and I've seen them
I've never seen them once, so why didn't you?
And I've seen them with Glenn Tipton, KK Downing, Ian Hill, Scott Travis, and Rob Halford. I've seen basically the Painkiller lineup for 2 gigs. With Richie, and of course, Glenn's unfortunate... late life issues now with Parkinson's, and he having to go basically into semi-retirement. I kind of feel like it's not the same Priest, but I really now, especially after reading Halford's book and seeing a few, like watching the videos all week and watching Richie Faulkner really tear apart KK's parts, like brilliant interpretations of KK's parts, even following to the letter of the law at the time, breaking the law. But he just seems brilliant. And now I found out that the other guitarist who's standing in for Glenn, while Glenn fights the Parkinson's, and I hate to think that I'd never see Glenn Tipton again live on stage. Especially Glenn, because Glenn was one of the prominent songwriters, like in terms of arranging the Judas Priest song. Every Judas Priest banger that I love, Glenn Tipton had probably the biggest hand in composing and arranging them. So for me, and of course my Aunt Rachel, being in love with Glenn Tipton, having met him a couple of times, it's hard for me. But to know that the guitarist who's standing in now is a guy, I forget his name, Sneed or something, but he was actually producing the record and was able to play the parts and was helping Glenn actually play some of the parts, allegedly, from what I've heard, from what I've read even. I think I might be misquoting that. But yeah, no, I'd be totally up for seeing him. The big thing for me is Halford's voice. Halford's voice is untouchable. We saw Iron Maiden. Bruce was great, but Bruce really doesn't give a lot of room for himself to modulate as he gets older. And I don't think Steve Harris would have it any other way, in any case. I think they have to play the kind of stuff. Well, yeah, if we're going to play it. We're going to play it just a little bit louder, but not very low. Whereas Priest have always kind of been a little more dramatic in the sense of like they're not. I put it like this: Judas Priest is a Red Dead Redemption player on a horse, and they'll canter all over the map. All over the map. They'll canter all over the map. They'll find every nuance of their piece. Iron Maiden, it's the guy on the back of the horse wanting completion, so he gallops in a linear line across the map. So
he wants to come on the back of his horse?
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, his mule. No. But that's the way I see it.
Mules are sterile, so that's okay.
So, yes, I've come out of the closet now to say Judas Priest, hands down, my favorite band, my favorite heavy metal band of all time. Not to say, I've been listening to Megadeth.
There's some leather in the back of that closet there if you want to try some on.
I've been listening to Megadeth recently.
Oh, really?
I begin to love Megadeth. And Shelley will be delighted to hear that. Brittany?
Yeah, just a few thoughts I was having. So, what I discovered, I didn't really have any outlet or exposure to metal from others sharing it with me until I met you, and then until I met the Norwegian lads that I met that I would go to Fibber McGee's with.
And Mr. French. Ooh la la, I like
French, and there was did I say Norwegian? I meant from the Netherlands. I'm sorry.
Well, but you also met Mr.
Well, ooh la dee da, Mr. Frenchman.
Yeah.
Lucas, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a good guy. Anyway, but I was gonna say is that's when I quickly discovered it. Kind of flipped something in my brain, because I remember I guess I can use first names. It's Frank, right?
You tell me. He was I met the guy once or twice.
We met him once at the.
We basically detached our brains in Brussels. Brussels on Brussels.
We went to Lucas' wedding reception.
Yeah, but remember one night we all went to Brussels just off of Grafton Street, and we were Painkiller came on, and we were headbanging me there with my short hair, and these two boys with their really long hair. And
and
we
the
were
vests with patches,
screaming, "This is the Painkiller!"
Yeah, that
we
was
were
fun.
Screaming. It was great. It was great fun. Great guys.
Anyway, but what I was trying to say is that I shortly, from that discovered how much a lot of really big metalheads just adore music as a whole.
Oh yeah, for sure.
From classical to
I grew up listening to classical.
being I'll put on some what's his name? Oh my gosh, something really. Who's the guy that does banana pancakes? Little banana pancakes. Johnson? Jim
Johnson. Jack Johnson?
Jack Johnson.
Jesus.
It's from classical to Jack Johnson. I'll put on some Jack Johnson every once in a while. And I just.
Well, I mean, when it comes to music.
What the fuck are you putting this on for?
Well, I'm making a point that how could you not love music? Even this. You can draw inspiration from everything. You can draw inspiration from anything, but it makes your point.
But what I'm trying to say is that classical music and metal have such an interesting tie that I never really would have put together unless somebody kind of exposed it to me. No, because I wasn't exposed to metal and I didn't really listen to classical music, so it's a lot of people think that metalheads are very narrow, almost kind of like people who listen to punk. How punk? It's only, the only...
if I ain't listening to punk, mate, you ain't doing it right.
Yeah. So, I kind of envisioned, metalheads that way, but then I, realized he's got this huge collection of CDs from, everything, every sort of genre.
It's true.
And I'm fucking annoyed that you're playing the song right now because it's just fucking annoying.
I was just trying to make a point that music can come from anywhere. But I mean, think about it. Some of the greatest artists of all time, like Ritchie Blackmore, Wing Malmsteen, Glenn Tipton of Judas Priest, even they were big on the classical music.
That are knowing your scales and your arpeggios and
arpeggios. But they brought it to another level.
Chords.
Ritchie Blackmore really did bring it to another level. Ritchie was always playing Mozart kind of. Brian May Brian May's
well,
whole...
you can hear some classical kind of stuff and even an Eruption a little bit.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's true.
But like, yeah, like...
That's that kind of classical. It's a classical arpeggio.
Not even going as far as back as like classical. The other person that in more recent years that like I discovered a lot of different other music was like going back to like what you would consider like what are called acoustic blues, like pre-60s like traditional blues.
Yeah.
And
where bands like Led Zeppelin kind of got their start.
Yeah,
the Beatles even to an extent.
I've always like, and that's more because of the accessibility of being able to listen to that kind of music because of this modern day and age where I can go to Spotify and listen to things from like the 1920s, like from Duke Ellington to like maybe lesser known names like Jelly Roll Morton, things like that.
Jelly Roll, who?
Jelly Roll Morton.
Martin's Jelly Rolls. Come and get them while they're cold.
It's like he is like very prominent artist, piano player, jazz pianist in the 20s and 30s, and that guy. There's like a particular song where it's like the lyrics to it are like gangster rap. Like it's like very like disrespectful to what, because he's like, well, you know, being because I guess being
the bitch gets in the kitchen.
No, but it was like very like
sandwich.
It was kind of
a sandwich. She ain't got peanut butter, so I spread it on her sandwich. Spread it on her. I just made up a new word. You know, that's how you rap, mother. No, yeah, okay, whatever.
No, you don't. That was awful, and
I know it was. It was
wish
terrible.
It would have never happened. But no, what I'm trying to say is that apparently this because I guess. It was considered to be very sissy to like play the piano.
Are you calling him cisgendered? That's very stereotypical to call him cisgender. We have a new word for that now. No? Nothing? Alright. 2 for 2. Go on. It was very sissy to be kind of rapping in the 20s, I guess.
No, that's not what I said. To be a piano player wasn't considered very masculine.
Well, look at Liberace. He was the most masculine.
Anyway, I'm done trying to deliver any point.
Let's get away
because
from
you're
that.
just trying to trample all over it with all your obnoxious jokes.
I am going to try and trample over it, but
the
here's the good...
moment I was doing jokes with you, you're like,
Please let me get my thought across.
No, that's not at all how it happened.
Anyway,
but anyway.
But going back to your when you're talking about like being kind of being a little bit hesitant to see bands you've already seen back in their maybe close to their heyday in their prime.
I guess.
That flag and that poster behind you happen to be from a woman who's you know in her middle age, who had the same sentiment. So we have Queen. We actually have like authentic Queen fan club items.
Not the Monarch, the band. Yes.
Queen fan club items that were exclusive just to the fan club out of London. Which is awesome.
Actually. We have very. I mean, these would be worth a pretty penny today.
They could be.
Yeah.
I have a pin.
But I love them.
I have a pin and a patch and a coffee mug.
Yeah.
She gave me a little collection there. But she was telling me, she's like how she just doesn't really. She doesn't really see bands that are like her age now, like in their 60s, because it's like, why would I? I saw them. You know,
but you couldn't. Yeah, but that's one of the biggest. One of the biggest regrets I'll ever have in my life, is that I will never see Queen live.
Well, okay, it's funny because I thought about the fact that you thought.
Sad.
I thought about how you said I would actually go see Queen with Adam Lambert just so I could see Brian May and
Roger
Taylor. And I'm like, that's justified.
I mean, I think I could.
That's justified.
I think I could, because I think I just have fun singing the songs.
Yeah.
But it's like to me, it's like going to see a really, really, really good cover band. Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, when I grew up in Tremor, we had some really great cover bands come through. I mean, you were in Dublin.
I like the Beatles, and I mean, I'll go to Beatle tribute bands.
Yeah, but you're not going to see the actual Fab Four lined up, because one has a bullet in his head and the other's brains fell out. Jesus. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but the bands,
That's
I suppose,
the thing that sucks is because like I really like. I mean, and I definitely listen to music of like very, very much dead people. Like I'm not gonna be able to see like
Oddly enough, we
Billie
don't listen to the
Holiday
Dead
or
Kennedys.
something, or like
We don't listen to Dead Kennedys at all. That's the weird one. Anyway, listen, I think we've spoken about music fast for long enough. So if everybody would like to join me one last time to a toast of the fallen hero, rock legend, rock guitar god that was Mr. Eddie Van Halen. And we will move on to other pressing matters. But Brittany, and to all of you out there who might be listening, to Eddie. And we will cheers to that.
That's bad luck because it was empty.
Beautiful. Okay, right. Now we are going to move away from music. I know you were having fun for the last 40 whatever minutes.
What?
I think. Yeah, damn, we're coming up. Damn, girl. Damn. We are coming up towards the end of the show. It's going to be a different show this week. I just need to feel. I just felt the need to get this one out a little bit better, or a little bit differently. I don't know what I'm saying, but we are going to move on to a bit of a little more diversion, I guess. These are the bits that she's been twiddling with.
Oh, don't say that, please, especially for this one that's coming up.
I'm always going to say.
Don't
it.
say the bit. I don't like.
Hey, you
that.
get to say your opening part, Brittany. Please do your
Twiddling
bit.
with. Feels inappropriate for this time around. Hello, and welcome to the potpourri part of the program where I get to talk about whatever the hell I want. And I thought I told you to get rid of the loop because it sounds like a mistake. If I'm gonna be honest.
You see, here's the problem. You put the loop on, but
no, I took it off.
I know you took it off, but you shouldn't have taken it off because there was other things to loop. We've had this discussion, Brittany.
Oh,
what are we talking about?
It affected everything in the playlist.
It affected everything in the playlist. So
that's weird.
Don't play with my settings.
Well.
I've had a stern conversation with the cat. Ho, Robin.
Our cat's name is Robin?
A Howard Stern conversation with the cat. You get it? Okay. Neither do I.
Oh, he is a vegan and he has a lot of cats. That's probably what.
Robin, I was the first vegan. I had a stern conversation with the cat. Howard Stern conversation, if you will. That is the second time in a week. Brittany, please do your bit before I forget. Do your bit.
Well.
It's the first time I've ever annoyed myself.
Maybe you should do that more often. Anyway.
Shut up.
Gonna probably bring the mood into a different area now, but
wow, because it was so great before talking about death and how it makes
yeah, we're
us feel
still
about
gonna
music.
continue to talk about death. So just released on Netflix last week was American Murder: The Family Next Door.
Goddamn.
I watched it last night, got through it last night. I was already familiar with the case because I kind of discovered a channel somewhat recently called JCS Criminal Psychology. And actually I kind of went back because he's been on for a couple years.
It does good work though.
He does very good work.
Good
He's been on for a couple of years. Not like hugely prolific channel because you see how much some of his videos are like an hour long and you see how much work goes into them.
You have to. I mean, you're getting into the mind of a murderer. I mean, you kind of really got to get into. I mean, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of production. But I'm kind of glad you introduced me to that one. To be honest with you, come on.
I don't think you've watched any of it.
I've watched a couple.
I've like shown you some clips.
Yeah, I'm for
Anyway, so I was already familiar because that was actually a shorter video but 3-part series that actually JCS Criminal Psychology were the first videos that channel posted.
I have been meaning to ask you, how did you come across this? Just out of curiosity, I mean,
Oh, do you
why
want me
are
to
you
tell that?
Well, I want to know why you're watching murderous wives and husbands go at each other's throats. I mean, I think any concerned husband.
Okay, well,
that's a fair
just
question.
to kind of steer into it, it's kind of been an emerging entertainment genre of true crime,
That is so weird.
which is a little
It's
odd.
not, no, actually, you know what? I take that back. It's not weird. Live PD, cops, crime is always entertaining. I think there's an inherent entertainment value to it. But I think when you get to the level that you've been talking about here, it gets creepy. Go on.
Yeah. Anyway, so I stumbled upon it one day just because a video popped up in my my recommend. I mean, this guy does get. He has very few. He doesn't have a lot of videos, but he does get millions of views on each one of them.
Goddamn.
So it popped up in my recommend. It's called the title of the of the episode was There's Something About Casey. And it was about Casey Anthony.
Oh yeah.
And having already been quite familiar with the Casey Anthony case, because a few months prior to seeing that Recommend feed, I had listened to the 2-part series on last podcast on the left. So it kind of piqued my interest. I'm like, that'd be interesting. And as it poses, it's a criminal psychology. And in fact, I actually wanted to do a Brit Spits on this and play a clip for you guys. So I'll just summarize it here because I don't have I actually might have the clip ready if you're willing to maybe have the fact that there's a little bit of a pause here.
If you want to take a look at that, I mean, Britt's really, I mean, if I want to talk about it, honestly, I mean, Britt has been watching.
This is going to maybe take me a while. You might want to actually pause it.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it. How long could it possibly take you? No, Brittany has been watching a lot of these, and I have to admit, I've been joining in on a couple of them, and I think I have a good idea about where this is kind of going. This is something that is on Netflix right now, and really is affecting. This one, if you're going to watch it, you don't want to be faint of heart to watch this. I don't think there's a certain thing about murder and serial killers that really that excite
serial killers,
murderers, whatever, what have you. Murder, I think a lot of people conflate the two at times, but I mean, I think there's something about it that really kind of excites people. Are you looking for that or not? Are you just
no? I found it.
Oh, okay.
I'm letting you finish your thought.
Great, yeah, no, but I think there's something that really excites you about it. But nowadays in this media, with the guys on YouTube, the thing we saw on Netflix the other night, which I'll let you build to, of course. There's, I think, some of the, I guess, and I use this word very, very loosely. I think there's some of the romance has been kind of taken out of it. Because now we're getting to see warts and all, whereas before, it's like Live PD. Before it was cops, and you get to see cops getting to be badass, and cops are always good guys. And then like Live PD comes on, and you just see, it's just I mean, there's a lot of traffic stops, there's this, that, and the other thing. It's not romantic. It's not like what you see in the movies. It's romantic for good or bad. Anyway, this clip you wanted to play.
Well, I'm gonna kind of get to that. I mean, yes, there's some true crime is kind of an
Remember
entertainment.
to turn it up on your device, by the way.
Okay, true crime is kind of an entertainment genre, I guess, at this point. That's been kind of openly labeled.
Sick,
openly labeled, but no, I don't say it. I don't think it's sick because I think I can't eloquently present it now, but there are some actual like eloquent ways to explain why you might be particularly fascinated or intrigued by learning about these things.
A human condition,
and
I think.
It's learning about the human condition, learning about the human mind, but it's also about
not wanting to do these things ourselves.
Well, yes,
That's not what I meant.
There's a fascination delving into the unknown and the recesses of a mind that you thankfully can't understand.
You would hope, because I think a lot of people can progress to that state of mind. And I think that's actually a bit to do with what you want to talk about in a minute.
But I think it's important to kind of like know about these things because...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, yes. Okay, I'll be honest with you. After all of this...
Other murderers living in your neighborhood. Yes, I mean, go ahead.
After all of this, I'll probably need a palate cleanser. You can't just constantly be feeding into this
How
true
could you?
crime genre.
I mean,
It becomes too much. But anyway...
Sorry, I had that very loud for your whenever you're ready.
I don't know why the applause was necessary. Anyway, I think I actually have it on the clip. So going back to what I'm going to present to you is there's something about Casey Anthony. This is the first thing that I put on by JCS Criminal Psychology because it popped up in my feed. And the intriguing thing about this is that the clip I'm going to play is there's a very striking resemblance in the behavior to a past manager I had.
Oh.
And so I never expected to put on an episode of this, put on something about a woman who murdered her child and related back to someone that I knew in real life, but it literally brought back like a little bit of a flashback to uncomfortable moments. And it really actually helped me comfort me in knowing that, oh my gosh, there's like a clinical explanation to why I was feeling uncomfortable communicating with this person, talking about my old manager. I was, there are particular reasons, and now that it's like, I couldn't ever explain it, but like this episode, in a strange, bizarre twist of events, actually provided me with a clinical explanation, which brought me a lot of comfort and a lot of validity to how I was feeling, and it gave an explanation to what I was feeling. So this is what I was experiencing, and maybe you've experienced this communicating with other people, and this might trigger a thought in your mind.
See what you think.
Detective finished his declamation, not when he started a new sentence.
Okay, I'm gonna take it back
you
to
got
2
it, you got
seconds.
it.
Know
It's okay.
where to place them correctly.
I think it's garbage. Yeah, I agree. That's the next way of putting it.
That doesn't make it any less necessary. Without them,
She's so accustomed to giving these ungenuine responses at every given opportunity that she doesn't even know where to place them correctly. This response should have been given 2 seconds earlier when the detective finished his declamation, not when he started a new sentence. It's so incredibly aggravating to watch.
I think that's the big thing, is you got to watch this. Brittany, what's the video for that?
There's something about Casey. So basically, we're talking about
There's something about Casey by who? Sorry.
by JCS Criminal Psychology.
There
That
you
wasn't
go.
exactly where the clip was, but it gives you, she keeps on interjecting.
Gives
with
you an
these,
idea.
and she just places it at inappropriate times,
Yeah.
and it's very like it's very like unhuman and like artificial and human. I'm sorry, and
Yes.
human and very artificial.
I'm playing with you. Come on.
Anyway, that's kind of going off the rails, but that is how I discovered discovered that channel.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to the original bits that I wanted to talk about was American Murder: The Family Next Door. I was already familiar with the case. If you're not familiar, a man by the name of Chris Watts annihilated his family, and because somehow in his twisted mind that was the only way to start a new life with this other woman. So that meant killing his it wasn't with a gun. Killing his pregnant wife
Goddamn.
and his 3 and a 4-year-old little girl. So
Now-
his 2 little girls.
That's
And so-
horrific.
And so but here's the thing about
Fuck you, Chris.
here's kind of my recap on. I'm gonna take a little spin on things
All right.
instead of just retelling the obvious of, there are pretty much, so in the area of true crime, there are kind of pretty much 2 different ways to retell an event like this. You have your clinical, informative, and educational, which I would kind of point my finger at JCS Criminal Psychology, having watched that before watching this documentary. Then on the other hand, you have very sensationalized and dramatic true crime entertainment.
CNN.
That's more about telling a story, more than recapping the events and breaking it down for you. This documentary kind of like fell in the middle for me. And there's so I'm kind of gonna go off on a spin on this a little bit. So I'm not just here to talk about Chris Watts' horrific crime, like the main subject of the film, obviously, but some spin-off subjects and some things I kind of conjured up in my mind while watching it and reflecting on it. There's 2 words: social media. So here's the thing: there wasn't a narrator in this documentary. There was no need. What's her name? Shanann, his wife. She
Very
was
weird pronunciation of that name, by the
yeah.
way.
It's not Shannon. It's Shanann.
My Shannon.
I had to kind of stop. Shanann was an open book on Facebook. She was like a daily blogger and vlogger, and was personal kind of types of blogging and vlogging, where she was
basically opening her whole entire life up. From
Yeah,
what
she
I
was
could
an
see,
open book.
that was the weird thing, and I think that plays into it a little bit later from what I was watching. But go ahead.
To the point where if her spirit would have been able to make post-mortem for a few hours after her death, she definitely would have. hey, so my husband just like totally smothered me and strangled me to death. OMG. Okay, now I'm wrapped up in a sheet and I'm in the back of his truck. He's got our 2 little girls, Cece and
Stop whining.
Cece and Bailey. I forget that.
That was a very, very poor, very mean joke, by the way. Yeah, he's killed me. Stop whining. Ugh.
And I don't know why he's bringing our 2 little girls along. I wonder why he's doing that. Oh, we're pulling up to this site in the middle of nowhere. He's burying me right now. Anyway, thank you for
That is possibly
thank
one
you
of the
for
most.
your one.
By the way, no, that was possibly one of the most evil things that you've ever kind of just come up with, and I love it. I will applaud you for it. Very well done, Brittany. You get a point, a good girl treat.
Like I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course. And
Of course, you're kidding.
I don't harbor any deep judgment against this woman.
I really thought you were going to say I don't
I'm
don't
not-
harbor any ill will towards Chris
And
Watts
I mean,
or whatever. his name is.
I'm somebody that I'm a little bit anti social media, but I'm not gonna like say
Yeah.
this woman deserved to die. Or
Oh,
something.
by no means.
But
no.
here's the thing: is that some people had the nerve.
Yeah, that was
So
sick.
here's the other aspects of social media. Some people had. There's a very short segment in the documentary that covers this. Had the nerve to tear her apart and criticize this woman after her life and the lives of her 2 little girls.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I forgot one of their names. I think it was Cecilia and I forget the other daughters, the other girls.
Dee or something, I don't know.
It was started with a B. I can't remember it now off the top of my head. But these little girls were their lives were horrifically taken away. Oh, and her unborn son. Let's not forget that. It's so ugly. Like they show a clip of a woman calling her a bitch, saying that you can just see like she's such a bitch. She drove him to do this. It's like it's just that is awful, and that's like the really ugly side of social media too.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that like people will Anyway, but here's the thing. I mean, like going back to it, this film didn't need a narrator, and then like this is the other spin-off kind of subject. That is why I don't really like care about social. That's why I don't really care for social media or being very involved, or viewing it very often, because I feel icky when I'm like, and there's a reason why they call it Facebook stalking.
Yeah.
Like you feel like you're invading someone's privacy, but
This
yet
is true.
they've made it public. But you still feel like you're seeing things you shouldn't be seeing or hearing things that you shouldn't be hearing.
Yeah, there's an equal amount of responsibility there, I think. And by the way, just to get back to your point there, Bella and Celeste.
Bella, it was
Bella
Bella.
and
I'm
Celeste.
sorry. I said Bailey. Sorry.
Bailey. Oh.
That's a name for
I know. It's also a name of a friend's dog. But anyway,
But here's
go on.
the thing. Like, here's the 2 different aspects. When I watched the JCS Criminal Psychology, I never saw the face. I never saw an image of the victims. Do you know what I mean? Like, I never saw an image of the victims. It's very clinical. It's very procedural. It's kind of like you almost feel like you're sitting in a class, like you're like taking a
Hannibal.
course in criminal psychology. Like you're sitting in a lecture hall viewing the interrogation tactics, and that part of it I can find fascinating. So there's a way, so I can see how people can have that job, because you kind of can separate the emotional human aspect of it, going,
Yeah.
all right, like I've watched some ugly cases where it's like, but it's like all through like the mindset of like, you're a forensic psychiatrist, you're part of the behavioral science unit, and your job is to find out, is this person going to, is it like, are they a monster or do they make a mistake? Are they able to be rehabilitated? Is there a way of learning from this case that we could maybe know in the future of how to prevent something like this happening? You know, like there's very like procedural reasons behind it, that kind of take emotion out of it. So I tend to be able to digest a lot more true crime. I almost use quotes around that true crime entertainment around when it's like done in the way that like JCS criminal psychology does it. There are a few things in the documentary that I wasn't informed of, and yeah, it was very, and that's when it kind of became sensationalized a little bit to me and dramatized, because there's parts that made me feel personally uncomfortable, and it wasn't because of the subject matter. It was because of like seeing very private messages. And
it was very raw.
It was basically like the way it was all done by showing you text, showing you clips from her Facebook posts of her videos, and there was, as I said, there was no narrator in it. And so it's really interesting how much of our lives are online, or if you want it that way. If you want it that way, a lot of people do that. That's what I found out listening to some other things. It's like, if you want to be a little bit secretive and not have a complete paper trail of your life and communications, that's why you should be making phone calls.
Well, true.
Because text messages are
this is actually kind of playing into that just a little bit, because I've just pulled up a quick little update here. This is from October.
Yeah, this all happened in 2018, by the way. August of 2018, he murdered his family.
And this is from today. And just want to read you, I want to read you this quickly. Chris Watts, the man who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, has found a way to pass the time as he spends his days in prison. He is corresponding with multiple women. He got lots of letters at first, says a source who spoke in Watts in jail. Many of them are women who thought he was handsome and felt compassion for him. He had nothing better to do, so he wrote them back and started having pen pals. A couple of them stood out, and they've kept in contact. And are the women troubled by Watts' horrific crimes? I mean, he murdered. Let's see, how many people? How many people did he murder, Brittany?
3 and a fetus.
4. He killed 4 people.
Well, yeah.
He killed 4 people, in my opinion, personally. I mean, I'm just going to say that right out here and there. I think he killed 4 people. Believe it or not,
that wasn't charged as killing.
I know it wasn't a charge, but I don't care.
Termination of a pregnancy.
I don't care. I do not care. He's killed 4 people. That baby would have come to term if that mother had been left to live. Shanann. Believe it or not, the source says they have compassion on him despite what he did. These are probably these women. I don't understand this.
Okay, well,
I literally do not understand this.
This is not anything new. Every high profile murder case like this always has weirdos.
Oh, I know. I'm aware. And do you ever notice these weirdos are always women?
There's a whole. You could talk You could talk a lot about the psychology behind those women. But anyway, moving on. It's very interesting that they have compassion for a man that really seems to lack any basic human connection, because here are some Google searches that he made. So I've actually been listening. This is probably the last Chris Watts coverage I'm going to ingest. But I started listening to. I'm into like chapter 4 of the Chris Watts tapes through a podcast called The Unforgivables. Which what he did was completely unforgivable.
He's certainly unforgivable. In my book, he's unforgivable. I just want to put a quick addendum on this before you get into your final thought here, because we are actually running low on time, and I just wanted to get this out. I can understand. I can't empathize, but I can, at a very base level, understand that you want to kill somebody because you feel like your life is now a wreck and it's an open book. And your privacy is completely going out.
You can sympathize with that?
I can find a way to sympathize with it. I don't think it's right, but I can find a way how a person could be driven to murder by doing that. Because a life that you wanted private is now an open book for the world to see. She apparently was a commanding woman. She was like, maybe she wasn't the best woman in the world. She never deserved death out of this. No, never. I almost
want you to stop here.
I'm not saying she deserved death, but I can see how somebody could be driven to that. But no, I can see that's the thing.
There are so many other solutions.
There are. You're right.
But the thing is, amount of solutions.
You're right.
A
divorce would be one.
Yes.
But I can understand
why he would kill those girls. Definitely
how would you just let me finish?
No, because what you're saying is disgusting.
No, it's what I'm saying is I can understand how somebody gets to that level.
No,
what I can't understand is how he would murder his own flesh and blood in cold blood. his little girls. I don't understand how you could.
No, this isn't in
I
cold.
I don't understand how he could squeeze the life out of them and dump them into drums. Those gigantic oil tankers that he did. I can understand. I can understand the path that led him to murder. I can understand that path. Do I think he should commit murder? No. I think he should. This is why you're arguing with me, and I wasn't allowed to get this point across, so I'm going to repeat it. What should he have committed murder? No. Should he have left? Yes. I can understand the path that it led him down. But you know what? He was frail. Obviously in his mind he was frail. He was yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes ma'am.
Well,
and that is going to drive somebody to murder. Unfortunately, he just obviously didn't have the mind. He should have just turned around every now and then and said, listen, would you shut the fuck up and turn off that goddamn fucking camera? That's what he should have done once in a while. The man was ballless, and he committed a ballless act, and he killed 4 people. That's what I say. And you know what? I hope he gets his... I hope those women see him for what he is while he's in prison. And I hope he, as the great Dave Landau says, I hope he gets raped for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He does not deserve... I think... Hold on. Wasn't there something that he was supposed to get the death penalty? Brittany. Wasn't he supposed to get the death penalty?
I do not know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
I thought he was supposed to get the death penalty, but he got a plea deal where he'd be life in prison.
I don't know about the court proceedings too much.
Okay. I just wanted to get that.
I know that he was like 9 charges, which is like anyway.
I'm not. Look, the only reason I did this and the only reason I went off like that is simply because you thought I wasn't watching it last night. I was paying full attention to it, and it sickened me. And I've seen this happen before, and it just sickened me, and I can understand how this sorry train of shit happens. And it disgusts me. It really does. It really does. Go on.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about that, yes, there's you can never excuse somebody for that behavior. That's why they're being thrown in prison for life. But yes, you're thinking like a lead investigator or a criminal psychologist when you have to kind of think about the how and the why. What led you to this point? And yes, and when you say cold-blooded, it wasn't cold-blooded because cold blood, I think, usually refers to the fact that they do it kind of spontaneously.
I think this was spontaneous.
No. This is absolutely a crime like this. Is absolutely premeditated. He knew he was going to do that. He had it planned.
Did he know he was going to kill his daughters?
Yes.
Really?
No, he had it very
that makes him worse.
He had it very premeditated. He told his
That's cold blood, I think.
He told cold
cold blood I think is premeditated.
Is that what cold blood implies?
I think it's kind of like it's like your order, like in military sense, like you're ordered to kill a man in cold blood. You know your orders. You know what you're getting into, and it's cold.
Anyway, let's not break down the semantics. That's annoying. Semantics. So, the original point I was trying to make about him not having any basic human connections. Another thing that I found is that Google searches are very revealing as well. So that's another thing about our internet age.
Of course.
That can be very revealing. So here are some Google searches. Kind of to, if you didn't quite pick up on it, yes, he was having an affair with another woman. So here are some Google searches he made at some point before the murders took place. After a date he went on with his girlfriend, his mistress at the time. When to say I love you. When to say I love you for the first time in a relationship. What do you feel when someone tells you that they love you? How does it feel when someone tells you they love you? Does that sound like the mind of a person with basic human emotions?
That sounds like a robot.
It sounds
like Arnie coming back in time. I need to learn how to talk like a human. That's quite literally what that's what it sounds like. It makes me think of the Terminator.
And yeah, it's very sad. He sounds very like he's...
Fuck you, asshole. That's like
he's soulless.
Yeah, it's like, remember the scene in the Terminator where he's like, hey buddy, you got a dead cat in there or what? And he has like a list of like different phrases to choose from. It's like, It's like, yeah, it's the same kind of idea.
Yeah, it's disturbing. Like, that's disturbing. And I mean,
I think it is.
Here's the other thing. Mentioning his girlfriend, Nicole Kessinger. It's only in this, which I if I didn't say so before, this is probably gonna be my last thing I'm gonna digest about this Chris Watts case is with these Chris Watts tapes, is that he's exploring that yes, there has been a lot of things circulating in the public about his girlfriend being a lot more involved than that doc or JCS would have provided for you. So she's not so innocent anymore, in my opinion. I'm only into chapter 4, so maybe I'll be able to learn a little bit more about it. But I mean, as far as we know, to this date, she hasn't been charged with anything or any conspiracy any involvement as far as that goes. But their relationship was a little bit more complicated than she had some weird Google searches too.
Well, this is something I just pulled up about. Speaking of weird Google searches, I just pulled up about Nicole Kessinger. So since Watts, this is just the first thing. I
don't think they're in a relationship anymore.
Well, no, he's writing other women. Remember?
Yeah.
So this is just the first thing I pulled up. Since Watts was arrested and charged with his wife's and daughter's murders, Kessinger has remained mostly out of the spotlight, I think, as you would.
Yeah.
She did give a detailed statement to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. After Watts was convicted, she moved out of Colorado, and rumors floated that she had entered the Witness Protection Program. Why would you need to do that?
Because I think the public did have an eye on her.
But she didn't actually do anything.
No.
Well, I suppose.
Anything that's
every night he was just sleeping and she was like, kill them.
No, I don't know yet. I don't know that yet. We don't know. I don't know that yet because I haven't explored the theories, but I just know as of today I was learning about possible theories about her involvement and kind of breaking down who she was and what the relationship was like and the nature of the relationship, and it's kind of like the plot thickens kind of for me right now.
She never formally testified. She was never a witness on the stand.
Yeah, I know. She legally speaking, court proceeding speaking, she did not have a spotlight on her, but publicly she has had a huge magnifying glass on her that yes, when things like this happen, theories are going to be very abundant. The public's going to be very vocal about it. And there have been a lot of theories developed about her. And I'm just going to leave it at involvement in it. I mean, she's totally the piece of for an investor, like, okay, well, there's your why. And I mean, that's the way that the lawyer against him put it at the very end. He's like, this is, you didn't need to annihilate your family. Just start a new, that's all you were doing. You just wanted to start a new life with this new young love. But yet you didn't really need to annihilate your whole fucking family over it.
Well, that was my point earlier. Yeah, absolutely.
That's the other sad thing is that
it's all sad.
No, he had the balls to continue to tell everybody but his own wife that he wanted a separation.
Yeah, I mean that's such a weird thing. I mean, if I wanted
she was fighting so hard to make it work, and he just kept on distancing himself. When it's like, just say, just separate. It's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in there though.
That's what I mean. His human connections are so off that he just decided.
I don't disagree.
Killing them.
I don't disagree with that. It's just that, I mean, the way she conducted herself in a lot of ways, and I'm not saying this is.
No, don't even do that. That's so disrespectful.
That's the thing. I'm not doing it the way you think I'm doing it. I'm just saying that in his state of mind, he wanted out, and if he would have thought there was a way to be amicably out, and there had to be a way to be there had to be a way, an amiable way to get out. But the thing is, her commitment to social media was.
Please stop, because you already tried to say this.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Don't say it again.
I've already said it.
This does not need to be the solution for what he wanted. Did not need to come anywhere close to where it did.
And you're right, 100%. He
was mentally mentally twisted
Well, that's
in
true.
his brain.
Judging by the Google things you read there earlier, yeah, I think he was. I think there was some definite. There just had to be some mental disorder in him. Because I mean, who the hell looks up that
Well,
shit?
because like look
a 13-year-old who doesn't know that a girl is hitting on him in school wouldn't look that shit up.
Look at how cold and he's very like relaxed and he just seems in every like interaction he had, even over text, you can just tell he's just kind of moving through the motions. Like he just seems very robotic, and he's like very like mellow, and he just doesn't really get too his voice doesn't modulate too much as far as being
the thing I'd say about, and just in conjunction to that, is that like he looked like a wonderful father to those poor little girls. He looked like a great dad.
Well, that's the that's the
he
other
really
thing.
Did.
That's the other thing is that I mean,
it was so weird. How could somebody that robotic, with those Google searches, and in the end a horrific crime that killed two beautiful little girls, and he just looked
Shannon.
and he looked like a perfect father. He looked like a wonderful. This is depressing me. This is genuinely beginning to depress me because
no, that's what I mean. You'll never be able to.
How?
You'll never be able to excuse what happened, but yes, there are ways, and that's where the fascination comes into. But that's actually, it's not so much a fascination. It's beyond fascination for some people. It's actually their jobs to understand.
Well, yeah, no.
Because the biggest thing that you want to do in the justice system is if there's any ways you can study a case like this in order to prevent something like this happening again.
How
and
do
some
you
of these
ever
things,
prevent something
but some
like
of these,
this?
but some things aren't preventable.
No, you're right.
But some
like
things
AIDS.
aren't.
Teasing, of course. I wanted to throw a little levity in. Come on.
Well, I tried to add
This is
levity in the beginning.
horrifying.
I had to try to add levity into it.
Look, it's a horrifying story.
All right, can we please stop?
It really
I'm
is
getting upset.
It's a horrifying story, and I am upset too. It's a horrifying story. It was a horrifying doc. Seeing it the way that it was presented on Netflix, and I do. Brittany, would you recommend it?
I mean, it's a hard thing to recommend. It wouldn't be for everybody. You'd have to.
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel like I was mentally prepared going into it.
Yeah.
Because of watching it in such a clinical, sterile presented way to me. Like I said in the beginning, I never saw an image of the victims or audio of the victims' voices. So it was very detached. So it was very much done in a like you're on the side of the justice system. Yeah, it's very clinical and procedural.
Yeah.
So this is where it kind of taps into more of like, okay, you're gonna go on a little bit of an emotional journey here, and of course you are, like, and it's, but I don't think it's done in a tasteless way. I think it's still well done and respectful.
It's brilliantly done. It is respectful. I do. It's incredibly affecting.
But there's, like I said, there's parts of it that make me feel icky because of but that's because of the social media aspect. I feel
is the
icky.
Technical term, I guess.
And I mean,
Jesus. Yeah.
And I mean, that's the biggest thing used in cases: texts, Google searches, your posts on social media.
Yeah, which is why I've like pretty much apart from Twitter again, which is where I get my main news.
No one could know like the updates on my life based on my social media account whatsoever.
My boss recently looked through your Facebook because
What?
I asked him to, and yeah, you could not tell a thing about your life.
I haven't posted anything in there for like 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. That was my point. Exactly. You wouldn't have a clue. You just know you're married to me, and that's it. That's all you would know. You'd know what your husband looked like, and that was about it.
There's like a couple years of my life that you kind of know who my friends were and where I may have gone on vacation, but that was like back in like 2010 to 2012.
We got a great kick out of the indie Bath album cover, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so Brittany,
that's really weird that you're looking at my Facebook. Shouldn't you be working?
Your final thoughts, please.
My final. I already presented my final.
That was your final thoughts. Okay, fantastic. And with that, let's get some jaunty music going, because that will
suck the life out of you.
Just
like how he strangled and suffocated his wife and children.
Jesus Christ! Damn it! I feel so bad for those little girls. I really do. They never understood the beautiful music of He-Man, I'm sure, which is playing currently under us. But Brittany, that was intense. That was intense. A lot of death in this podcast. I have to thank you for wonderful research. Your diligent.
No, my research. Well, my putting together my thoughts is just when I go on my afternoon walks.
To kill an orphanage full of children.
No, but I was really careful at crossing that crosswalk this time today. Very careful.
Thank God. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to do it. To the dead babies, the dead mama, the dead fetus, and of course the dead Eddie Van Halen. Eddie, please do me a favor. If you're up there,
Play him a song.
play him give him a concert, will you? Because they all are in heaven, and I hope that father goes to fucking hell and sucks Satan's cock for the rest of time. That's the best I can say for it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to the West of
He's
Waterford
the type
podcast.
of criminal that other criminals want to kill him.
Yes.
And that's a true statement.
This episode is
He
going
has
to
to
go
be
up.
protected.
This episode is going to go up pretty much immediately. There will be a backlog episode that'll go up after this. So if it sounds a little out of sync, you know now
Oh,
why.
yeah, you won't get the crosswalk reference until the next episode.
There you go. Well, listen to that episode to hear Brittany flashing traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good night. Like, share, and subscribe. So good night, Brittany.
Good night.
Good night, you beautiful people.
Don't let your
Oh
significant
my.
other murder you.
Yes.